Who are you?
How you doing, King Jay?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so we're talking about building generational wealth. You know, people hear me all the time. They see some of our other associates, but it's great to have you come in. You're a TREF partner,
Yes.
shareholder. You're a founder?
Founder. I'm a founder.
You made the founder deadline? All right.
Yes, sir.
He's one of our fellow founders. So, King, tell our audience a little bit about yourself, you know, and what brought you here with us tonight.
Okay, I'm Sean Harris, and originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I come from a family of entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And one of the things that got me so interested in the TREF was my family actually owned one of the first African American owned hotels in Atlanta.
Wow.
And where the Grady Curve is now is where their establishment sat. So the 7585 connector actually pretty much eminent domain right through the center of the business.
So the city took the properties.
Right. So at that point, you know, just seeing the history of my family of entrepreneurs, I just always knew that I had to take the mantle and run with it.
Gotcha.
Take the baton and run with it. So, you know, I developed, my parents, they told me, go to school, get good grades, go get a job.
Right.
And, you know, as I grew older, I just realized that didn't work as well as it was designed to work. So a better axiom that I like to go by is go to school, get okay grades, and go build a business. Because A students teach B students who always work for C students. And I just looked.
Say that again.
A students teach B students who always work for C students. And I was a C student. You know, I just wanted to see my way out.
Right.
And so when I was 17, you know, my dad, he gave me the choices. Either you can go to school, get a job, or go to the military. So I figured in the 12 years that I went to school, if I didn't figure it out by then, it wasn't too much more I was going to learn as far as basic academia. And I didn't want to go work for anyone because I didn't like being told what to do. So I went to the Air Force, and guess what? They told me what to do. But it gave me a great opportunity to travel, get some experience, and just see the world as it was. And King Jay, I remember seeing my base commander. He had been in for 30 years. He was coming up for retirement. And I remember he stuck his chest out nice and broad, and he said, you know what, Airman, you stay in the Air Force for 30 years, just like I did. You can command the base just like I did. So, as he said that and turned and walked and got into this decrepit vehicle, and I knew where he lived, I was like, wow, doing something for 30 years, trading your time for money, led to this. That definitely wasn't what I wanted. So when I got out of the military, I got in law enforcement for a while, and I started burning candle at both ends. And I knew that I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Both my parents were entrepreneurs, so I saw them burning candle at both ends. And what that did was gave me the foundation to be able to move forward in the direction of entrepreneurship.
Right.
So, you know,
This is very intriguing. I want you to look at the camera and speak to the audience. I'm hearing you.
Gotcha.
And me and you will be locked in, and they won't hear it. I want to make sure that they hear this and they get this. So continue on, though.
Okay.
It's a great story.
So when I got out of the military, I started an exit strategy before I got out of the military, and I knew at that point that I had to redirect my focus. I had to start educating myself in entrepreneurship. So I did some time in law enforcement, and I started seeing some of my comrades losing their lives, and I realized that this wasn't going to be the future for me, because I also realized that I was based on my physical ability to perform. And if something ceased for me to be able to create the income through using my physical ability to perform, which is very easy to become injured in law enforcement, I knew that I didn't have a career after that. So at that point, I decided, I started speaking to one of the other police officers, and I noticed that his lifestyle started changing. He started driving different vehicles, and he moved to a different neighborhood. And I asked him, I was like, what are you doing? And he said, not too much. So I continued hounding him about it, and he saw that my commitment level, I was serious. And at that point, he said, you know, I do real estate. I said, really? I said, tell me more about it. So he initially told me about a home inspector. So I went to school, became a home inspector, and started a home inspection company.
So you're a police officer and home inspector?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So at that point, King J, I started realizing that in just 2 days worth of work as a home inspector, I was making more than I was making as a deputy sheriff. So I was like, Dad always told me, work smarter, not harder. And I realized that, you know, if I could generate income in a 20-hour block of time that would typically take me 40 or more hours or 60 hours of working overtime, I could generate the same capital. I could then take that money and put it into my own business. So I started kind of taking the money from my real estate, home inspection business, as well as law enforcement, and put it all into my business because I knew that's where my dream was. And it came to a point where I saw his lifestyle start changing even more. He became a broker. And I said, okay, I want to learn some more about the real estate side as opposed to just the home inspection side. So when I got into the real estate side, he started teaching me. He said, look, man, at that time the market was booming. And he said, look, you'll make at least 3% on every sale that you make. So I did the math. I said, okay, I'm $100,000 house. 3%, that's $3,000. Then he said, well, if you list the house and you sell the house, you'll get the full 6%. I said, oh yeah, I like this now. So I've always been pretty good with numbers, and at that point, I got to the point where I had doubled my income that I was making in law enforcement in less than a year. So at that point, I knew pretty soon I need to burn one end of the candle out. And at the sheriff's department, the sheriff and I were pretty close, and he knew what I was doing in conjunction to work at the sheriff's department. And he said, Mr. Harris, he called me Deputy Harris. He said, if you're still here in the next 6 months, I'm going to fire you. Wow. And he said it in a good way because he told me, he said, look, you're losing money coming in here every day when you can be really making your money and fulfilling your dream out there. So,
so I want to know this. What was your psyche at that time, knowing that you were doubling your income in your own business, but still going to work and spending time in someone else's business, the government's business? What kept you there? At the police station or as a deputy, what kept you in that role, seeing the economic disparity and the risk?
Gotcha. At that point, it was still the uncertainty, I guess. You know, I was ready to take my foot off first to steal second, but I didn't take it off.
Stop right there. See, this is what I'm talking about. This lesson or this episode of Toast Talk Thursday is about building generational wealth. And Mark Whitten hit it on the head. It's 5% real estate or entrepreneurship. It's 95% mindset. Think about this. I'm looking at everybody in the room. Think about this. This man said, I doubled my income in my own business in real estate, double what I was making as a deputy sheriff with overtime, but I still was uncertain about the opportunities in my own business and wasn't willing to bet it all on me, but was willing to gamble my life. Because it wasn't like you had you were working at FedEx. He's working in one of the most riskiest businesses in the world, but he was more certain about coming home at night as a deputy police officer and was more willing to risk his life dealing with what an officer has to deal with than the psychological perceived uncertainty of pouring all those hours. Mindset. His mind at that point in time didn't say, wait, if I'm doubling my income part-time in real estate, doing full-time what I do here, what if I took all these hours from over here and put them into here? To me, and to an entrepreneur mind, that's a no-brainer. Like, I'd quit that day.
Right.
I don't need two discussions about that.
Right. And I'll tell you, King Jay, what made me fall on the other side of the fence. I was actually taking a trip. I was on my way to Jamaica. I was at Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, and the phone rang. I kind of knew that I was going to be leaving pretty soon, so it's kind of like in the military. If you have a leave time, you kind of want to use it before you lose it. And at that point, I said, I got about 2.5 months worth of vacation, so I better start burning some of this time. And I was down to about 45 days in a row that I had took off on vacation. And my commander actually called me while I was sitting at the terminal at Hartsfield International Airport. I was about to board the plane, and he said, Deputy Harris, you must return to work on Monday unless you have express written concern from the sheriff himself, or you'll be terminated. And at that point, I thought about it, only for a half a second. And I said, he was a major, I won't say his name right now. I say, Major, I'll deal with you when I get back. And I'm on the phone. And at that point, my mindset shifted.
So I'm the boss. I'm the
boss.
man.
And I decided at that point, I want my freedom. I wanted to be able to control my time and my money, and to, I was budgeting my time, like you said, on both sides of the fence, and I wanted to put all that time to leverage on my side.
And you know what part of it is? We are programmed, as you said, through school, to go to school, get good grades, go to college, and go work for somebody. So what's happening is that we have to, and grandmama said it, and mama said it, and so what happens is we have to reprogram ourselves to say, wait, that don't make sense all the time. It doesn't make sense and we say, oh, well, the job is certain, but what happens when the pink slip comes? Is it certain then? What happens when a near-death experience happens? What happens when the owner of the company has a gambling problem and the company goes bankrupt, or has a drug problem, or gets divorced? Is it certain then? So we buy into this make-believe uncertainty because it benefits the government institution and corporate institutions to promote employeeship over entrepreneurship. Because if the American school system promoted that everyone become entrepreneurs, where would the employees be?
Right.
So this country works off of labor. It's why we're here, because they needed labor. And so they want to promote laborship, employeeship, and not entrepreneurship. So it makes it so hard for us to break out of habits and making decisions that we know don't very well make much sense.
Right.
Where you almost have to get forced out of your job.
Yes.
In order for you to leave what you were told all your life is what you should be doing.
Right.
And so tell us about some of your successes or experiences during this entrepreneur journey.
Well, subsequently I started my real estate businesses, and I continued to actually triple that income that I was making at the sheriff's department within a year.
I borrow some
after
money?
that. You sure can.
Okay, thank
With the interest rate.
you.
So, I just started, it gave me more time, Jay, to be able to be more creative. I was able to read more. And readers are leaders. Your income is always based on your reading habit. And I found that out really quick. So, I started expanding into different avenues of business, and I started recognizing once I could leverage my time by creating a business system where it's now making money for me. And I actually reached back and started a contract police service business, where I then hired police that I work with.
Wow.
Where you have a contract, which of course the amount that you're making is here, but I'm only paying them their percentage.
Right. You make your override.
Right. So with that compounded times multiple officers doing that, you started to duplicate yourself or franchise yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I was able to have a self-sustaining system in place, which allowed me to go start other avenues of creating more income.
Absolutely.
So, I wanted to shift more so into the real estate portion, because that was the meat and potatoes of the income. Started subsequent companies thereafter, have a commercial cleaning company,